Hello everyone, this is Jag. Well, in this video I'm going to cover 8 vegetables that you can still plant and grow in June. Now, even though when the weather is hot, these 8 vegetables do really well. Now, for my friends in Southern Hemisphere such as Australia, South Africa and South America, check out the videos on the chores I like to do in December because that's what you'll be doing in June. So, without taking any more of your time, let's get started. Now, number 1 is cherry tomatoes. Now, regular tomatoes don't do well in extreme heat, and also they don't do well when planted really late in summer. So if you plant regular tomatoes, especially heirloom tomatoes, in June, you won't get harvest until September or October, which might be too late and too close to your very first frost date. However, cherry tomatoes grow really fast and they start producing fruit, which is a cherry tomato, really soon as well. So if you plant cherry tomatoes in June, you can start harvesting cherry tomatoes in August, just 2 months after planting. You can directly sow the seeds of cherry tomatoes in your garden in June, and the plants will start to grow just about a week after sowing. While heirloom tomatoes are very temperamental with heat, if the temperature goes above 95 degrees Fahrenheit, they tend to throw a fit, or if you water them too much, they also tend to throw a fit as well. Or if you fertilize too much, the tomato plants will grow really big and bushy, but they will not produce any tomatoes, and you can even experience tomato flower drop. However, that is not the case with cherry tomatoes. So plant cherry tomatoes worry-free and you will always get a really good harvest from cherry tomatoes. Number 2, Malabar spinach. Now, regular spinach does not do very well in the heat of summer. However, Malabar spinach does really well in heat. Malabar spinach is not really related to spinach, not even like spinach. It kind of looks like spinach. Just to be honest, not everyone likes Malabar spinach. Now, the people that like spinach are very small in number, and the people that like Malabar spinach are even smaller in number as well. However, I do encourage you to grow Malabar spinach because it does really well in the summer heat and you get a really good harvest as well. Number 3, summer squash. Now, there are many other summer vegetables that are really too late to plant in June, such as okra, eggplants, and peppers, because they take much longer from seed to harvest. However, you can still sow the seeds of zucchini and yellow cricknet squash and other summer squash even in June because they are really fast growing. Now, zucchini grows really fast. If you plant it in spring, you might have noticed you'll start seeing the flowers of zucchini just a month after planting. However, if you plant it in summer, zucchini loves the heat and it will grow even faster in summer. That makes it a perfect contender to grow in June. You can start harvesting zucchini just 2 months after planting. Plant zucchini seeds 1 inch deep. The plant spacing should be 2 to 3 feet apart and row spacing 3 to 4 feet apart. Zucchini plants tend to grow really big, so if you plant them closer, be sure to prune your zucchini plants. Fun fact, zucchini and other squash flowers are also edible. So if your plants are producing too much zucchini, also try the zucchini flowers this summer. While your spring planting of summer squash is growing really well now by June, and you might be harvesting a lot of zucchini and summer squash, it's a really good idea to plant more in June because the zucchini planted in spring will get exhausted by July and August. The plants tend to get powdery mildew and some other diseases, and you have to prune them really well and also take care of them if you want them to produce much longer. I have a separate video on how to prune your zucchini plants, so check that out if you're interested. However, succession planting is a really good idea for zucchini and other summer squashes such as yellow cricknet squash. Number 4, winter squash. You can grow butternut squash, spaghetti squash, red curry squash, and many other types of winter squash as well. Now, I taste tested 10 types of squash, so check that out if you're interested. I'll leave a link to the video in the description. Now, winter squash is a really good contender to start sowing and growing in June, especially if you're in zone 7 and below, because your first frost date is either in October or first week of November, and you want to get the harvest right before the first frost. However, if you're in zone 8 or 9, you can still sow winter squash in your garden for early harvest. And you can also sow winter squash in July for later harvest as well. Now, I like to keep my videos really short and concise, and I pack my videos with a lot of useful information without taking any more of your time. So if you're liking the content so far, consider subscribing, and to support the content, please do hit the like button. Number 5, pumpkins. Now, pumpkins are also really much like winter squash as well. If you're in zone 7 and below, plant them in June for sure. If you're in zone 8 and 9, you can sow the seeds of pumpkins in June or in July. and you can start harvesting pumpkins in October and November. Now you can grow a variety of pumpkins as well, such as sugar pie pumpkins, which is on a sweeter side and it's really good to make pumpkin pie. You can also grow Long Island cheese pumpkin, which is a little bit less sweeter than the sugar pie pumpkin, but it's full of flavor. You can also grow yard ale pumpkin, which has an earthy taste and makes really good soups. Or you can grow Cinderella pumpkin, which has a finer tone and a balance between sweetness and earthy flavor, and it's good for making pies and soups. The seed depth should be ½ inch deep. Plant spacing should be 3 to 4 feet apart, and row spacing 4 to 6 feet apart. Now these pumpkin vines can grow really big, so they need ample space to grow and create really good pumpkins. I also have a separate video on the taste test of different kinds of pumpkins as well, so check that out if you're interested. Now winter squashes and pumpkins, you have to let them cure on the vine. They have to get hardened before you harvest them. That way they'll have a really long shelf life. If you keep winter squashes and pumpkins in a cool, dark and dry place such as your basement or your pantry, they can last up to 6 months and even up to 9 months if properly stored. Now pumpkins also take about 4 months from seed to harvest, so make sure you plant the seeds of pumpkins in your garden at least 4 months before your first frost. Number 6, cucumbers. Now you might think cucumbers are slow growing, why plant them in June? Now cucumbers can be slow growing if you plant it in spring because the temperature is still cold. The nighttime temperature is still in about 45 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit in April, so they are a little bit slow to grow. However, if you sow the seeds of cucumbers in June, the weather is already warm and they will germinate in just about 4 to 5 days, and they will start growing really fast, and they will start producing cucumbers just 1.5 to 2 months after sowing. Now cucumbers like consistent and regular watering. If you're irregular in your watering, cucumbers can turn out bitter. So if that's the case, if you always have trouble growing cucumbers, you can grow an Armenian cucumber, which is not really a cucumber, it is a melon. However, it never turns out bitter, so you can have guaranteed success in growing Armenian cucumber. Number 7, basil. Now basil is also very fast growing if planted in June. Basil germinates from seed in just about 5 to 6 days, and in about 2 weeks basil plants can get about 4 to 5 inches tall. Now in just about 1.5 to 2 months you can have lots of basil, way more than you can handle. You just have to implement proper pruning techniques to make sure your basil plants grow big and bushy. And I have 5 tips to grow really big and bushy basil plants if you're interested. You can also propagate basil from cuttings as well, and I have a video on that. The link will be in the description. Now if the temperature in summer in your region goes above 90 degrees Fahrenheit, basil will love shade. If planted in full sun in extreme heat, basil leaves will get prickly and small. However, if you plant them in shade or partial shade in extreme heat, they'll do really well and you'll get really broad and soft leaves. Now, let me show you what I've got growing in the bed right here in the shade. You'll be surprised because it's June and the plants are loaded. Well, check this out. These are the pea plants and they're absolutely loaded with peas. I planted them in the last week of March. Now check out the leaves are Swiss chard. They're doing absolutely amazing. And the kale is absolutely flourishing even in the heat of June. And we got some purple peas growing as well. All of this is possible by the afternoon shade provided by this big tree. So it is possible to grow winter and early spring vegetables all the way into summer, and they will do really well if grown in shade or partial shade. I also have a video on 15 vegetables that you can grow in shade or partial shade. I know I keep mentioning all of my videos. I just have a lot of videos that I love sharing with you guys. Number 8, green beans. Now green beans are really fast growing as well. They will germinate in just 3 days. They'll start producing green bean in just about 1.5 to 2 months after planting. Plant green bean seeds 1 inch deep. Plant spacing should be 3 inches apart and row spacing 2 feet apart. You can grow a vining variety of green beans, or for ease of growth, you can try bush beans such as contender beans. Now if you plant green beans in June, you can start harvesting green beans in August, and you can keep harvesting green beans all the way until October or even November depending on your first frost. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in another video.